Part 1. When humanity's Titan-class warship appeared, the stars were cold and distant in the void beyond Neptune's orbit. Admiral Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the massive construction facility, her hands clasped behind her back. Through the transparent steel windows, she watched the birth of humanity's greatest achievement. The Eternal Dawn hung in space like a sleeping giant. 5 kilometers of reinforced titanium and cutting-edge weapon systems. 30 years of secret construction had led to this moment. Jiwoo remembered the war that had brought them here. She had been young then, a fighter pilot full of dreams. The alien ships had appeared without warning, their technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. The battle lasted 3 days. Earth surrendered unconditionally. Her husband and daughter died when the aliens destroyed the orbital station where they lived. The aliens called themselves the Dominion Council, 7 species who ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They told humanity to stay in their own solar system and never venture out again. But humans had never been good at following orders. "Admiral, all systems are online," said Captain Hyun-ki from his station. The young officer's voice carried excitement he could barely contain. "The reactor is stable. Weapons are ready. She's ready to fly." Jiwoo allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's wake her up. Power the engines." Deep within the warship, fusion reactors roared to life. The Eternal Dawn began to glow with inner light. Slowly, majestically, the Titan-class warship moved forward. Every person on the construction facility stopped working to watch. Some cried, others cheered. They had built something the galaxy had never seen before. A ship designed by humans for humans with one purpose, to prove they were not a species to be pushed around. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Ambassador Tai Yang walked into the Grand Hall of the Dominion Council. The chamber was enormous, built to accommodate 7 different alien species. The ceiling reached so high it disappeared into artificial clouds. Statues of ancient conquerors lined the walls. Everything about this place was designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. Tai Yang had been a soldier once. He fought in the war and watched his friends die. Now he wore the suit of a diplomat, but inside he was still a warrior. He walked to the center of the hall and waited. Around him, the 7 council members sat on elevated thrones. They looked down at him like gods judging a mortal. The Velcros Chancellor spoke first. His reptilian face showed amusement. "The human requests an audience. How entertaining. Tell us, little human, why should we waste our time with your kind?" Tai Yang kept his voice calm and respectful. "Honorable Council, humanity wishes to join the Dominion as equal members. We have much to offer." The chamber erupted in laughter. It echoed off the walls like thunder. The 7 species of the council found his words hilarious. One of them, a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish, spoke through a translator device. "Equal members? You barely have space travel. Your weapons are primitive. Your lifespans are pathetically short. You have nothing we want. Then what do you offer us?" Tai Yang asked. The Velcro's Chancellor leaned forward. "We offer you protection. Serve the Dominion faithfully. Provide resources when we demand them. Send your best and brightest to work in our factories. In return, we will not exterminate you. We call this status protected servants. It is more than your species deserves." Tai Yang stood silent for a long moment. Every eye in the chamber watched him. He knew this moment would define humanity's future. His hand moved to the small device in his pocket. "I respectfully decline your offer, Chancellor." The laughter stopped. The Velcro's Chancellor's face darkened with anger. "You decline? You dare to refuse the generosity of the Dominion Council?" "I do," Tai Yang said quietly. "Because humanity bows to no one anymore." "Then you choose war," the Chancellor hissed. "We will send our fleets to Earth. We will burn your cities. We will scatter your people across the void. You will learn what happens to species who defy the Council." Tai Yang pulled out the small device and activated it. A holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber, growing until it filled the entire space. Every council member could see it clearly. The image showed Earth blue and green and beautiful. And above Earth, hanging in space like a sword, was the Eternal Dawn. The warship dwarfed everything around it. Its weapons batteries could be seen clearly. Its armor gleamed in the light of Sol. The chamber fell absolutely silent. Not a single being made a sound. They stared at the image, trying to understand what they were seeing. Humans were not supposed to build ships like this. Humans were supposed to be weak. "This is the Eternal Dawn," Tai Yang said. His voice now carried steel. A Titan-class warship, the first of its kind. We built it in secret over 30 years. Every rivet, every circuit, every weapon was designed and constructed by human hands. We learned from you, studied your technology, and then we surpassed it. The Velcro's chancellor found his voice. It trembled with rage. This is a trick. An illusion. No trick, Taeyang replied. The ship is real. It orbits Earth right now. Your sensors can confirm it if you check. We didn't build it to conquer. We built it so we would never be conquered again. Another council member, a four-armed insectoid, spoke up. One ship means nothing. We have thousands. We will crush you like insects. Taeyang smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. Then come and try. But remember this moment. Remember when humanity said no. Remember when we showed you that we are not your servants. We are your equals, whether you accept it or not. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the council members began shouting at each other, their voices rising in panic and anger. Taeyang didn't look back. He had delivered his message. Now events would unfold as they must. The Velcro's chancellor's voice boomed across the chamber. Ambassador Taeyang, you have 7 days to dismantle that warship and surrender. If you refuse, the full might of the Dominion will descend upon Earth. Every human will die. This is your final warning. Taeyang paused at the doorway. He looked over his shoulder one last time. Then I suppose we'll see you in 7 days, Chancellor. Bring your fleet. Bring all of them. We'll be waiting. He left the chamber. The massive doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. In his pocket, his communication device vibrated. A message from Admiral Jiwoo. They took the bait. Prepare for war. Taeyang allowed himself a grim smile as he walked through the alien corridors. 7 days. In 7 days, the galaxy would learn what happened when you pushed humanity too far. They would learn that humans didn't start fights, but they sure as hell finished them. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Jiwoo gathered her senior officers. They stood around a holographic display showing the Dominion's territory. Red markers indicated fleet positions. Blue markers showed potential allies. They'll come with everything they have, she said quietly. They have to. If they let us stand, every species under their control will start asking questions. Can we win? Asked Commander Minna, leader of the ship's marine forces. Jiwoo looked at her crew. These were the best humanity had to offer. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and dreamers. They had built the impossible. Now they had to defend it. I don't know, she admitted. But I know we'll fight. And I know we won't surrender. Not ever again. Outside, Earth spun peacefully below them. 8 billion people waited to see if their defenders would be enough. The Eternal Dawn powered its weapons and began running combat simulations. War was coming and humanity would face it standing tall. Part 2. When humanity's Titan-class warship appeared, the news spread across the galaxy like fire. Humanity had built a Titan-class warship. Humanity had refused the Dominion Council's demands. Humanity, the small species that had been defeated so easily 30 years ago, was preparing to fight the most powerful military force in known space. On 1,000 different worlds, beings gathered around communication devices to watch what would happen next. Most thought the humans had gone insane. Some admired their courage even if they believed it was pointless. Betting pools opened on how long Earth would survive. The most optimistic gave humanity 3 hours once the fighting started. The pessimists said 30 minutes. But there were others who watched with different eyes. On planets where the Dominion Council's rule pressed down like an iron boot, where species served as little more than slaves, whispers began. If the humans could say no, maybe they could too. Admiral Jiwoo stood in the engineering section of the Eternal Dawn, watching Dong-Ha work. The engineer was brilliant but haunted. He had once worked for the Council, designing weapons that were later used against his own people. He came back to Earth 5 years ago, carrying guilt and valuable knowledge. Now he worked frantically to make sure every system on the ship was perfect. The shields are calibrated, Dong-Ha said, his hands moving across holographic controls. But Admiral, I need to be honest. I designed defensive systems for the Council. I know their weapons. If they hit us with concentrated fire from multiple angles, the shields will fail eventually. The math doesn't lie. Jiwoo placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we make sure they don't get multiple angles. How long can the shields hold against direct assault? Maybe 10 minutes of sustained fire from a dozen ships. Maybe less. Dong-Ha looked up at her and his eyes showed fear. They're bringing 300 warships, Admiral. 300. Then we'll have to be very, very good at our job, Jiwoo replied calmly. Inside, she felt the weight of 8 billion lives pressing down on her. But she couldn't show doubt. Not now. Captain Hyun-ki approached with a data tablet. Admiral, we've received a message. It's encrypted, source unknown. Dr. So-min cracked the code. You need to see this. In Jiwoo's private office, the message played. A holographic figure appeared, humanoid but clearly alien, with blue skin and large eyes. Admiral Jiwoo of Earth, I am Ambassador Harin of the Freehold clans. We represent 47 species who live under Dominion rule but dream of freedom. Jiwoo listened carefully. Harin continued, we cannot fight openly. The Council would destroy our worlds, but we can help you in secret. I'm sending tactical data about their fleet formations, weapon specifications, and command protocols. We've waited centuries for someone to stand against the Council. We never imagined it would be humans, but we're glad someone finally said no. The message ended with coordinates for secure communication channels. Hyun-ki looked at Jiwoo questioningly. Could be a trap, Admiral. Could be, she agreed. Or it could be the edge we need. Analyze the data they sent. If it checks out against what we already know, we'll consider them allies. Dr. So-min, the scientist who had developed humanity's new weapons, spent hours reviewing the information from the Freehold clans. She emerged from her lab with dark circles under her eyes but a fierce smile on her face. It's real, all of it. They've given us complete breakdowns of Council battle tactics. Admiral, these tactics haven't changed in over 1,000 years. The Council is so confident in their superiority that they've become predictable. Predictability we can exploit, Jiwoo said thoughtfully. She called her senior officers for a strategy meeting. On the holographic display, they reviewed simulations of the coming battle. Hyun-ki proposed unconventional maneuvers, things the Council would never expect. Minna suggested ways to turn the Eternal Dawn's massive size into an advantage, rather than a liability. Meanwhile, the Dominion fleet gathered at the edge of Council space. 300 warships representing all 7 species of the Council. Fleet Commander Thales stood on the bridge of his flagship, surveying his forces with satisfaction. He was a Velcros like the Chancellor, four-armed and covered in tough scales. He had fought in 50 wars over his long life. This would be his easiest victory. They have one ship, Thales said to his second-in-command. One single ship, and they think they can stand against us. I almost pity them, almost. His officers laughed. They shared his confidence. The reports from their scouts confirmed the Eternal Dawn was indeed massive and well-armed, but numbers always won in the end. 300 ships could surround and overwhelm any single vessel, no matter how large. When we defeat them, Thales continued, I want the survivors captured. They will serve as examples to any other species thinking of rebellion. The Dominion's power is absolute. It always has been and it always will be. The fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. 7 days had passed. The ultimatum had expired. Earth's response was silence. That silence would be answered with fire. On Earth, President Jae-sung addressed the planet. His face appeared on every screen, every device, in every home. My fellow humans, he began, his voice steady despite the fear that surely gripped his heart. In a few hours, the Dominion Council's fleet will arrive. They come to force us into submission. They come to make us slaves. Our answer is the same as it was 7 days ago, no. He paused, letting his words sink in. Some of you are afraid, I am too. Some of you wonder if we should have accepted their terms. I understand that doubt. But I want you to remember why we built the Eternal Dawn. We built it so our children would grow up free. We built it so humanity would never again bow to anyone. We built it because we refused to live on our knees. Across the planet, people watched. In New Seoul, crowds gathered in the streets holding candles. In New York, families huddled together in their homes. In Mumbai, prayers were offered in temples. In Lagos, drums beat ancient rhythms of war and courage. Every human felt the same mixture of terror and pride. Admiral Jiwoo and her crew will defend us, President Jae-sung concluded. They carry our hopes, our dreams, and our defiance into the darkness. Whatever happens, know this. We face our fate with our heads held high. We are humanity, and we will never surrender. Aboard the Eternal Dawn, Jiwoo watched the president's speech with her crew. When it ended, she stood and addressed them over the ship's communication system. You heard President Jae-sung. Now hear me. In approximately 2 hours, sensors will detect the enemy fleet. They outnumber us 300 to 1, They expect us to run or beg for mercy. We will do neither. She walked through the ship as she spoke, her voice echoing in every corridor, every compartment, every station. We are about to make history. Some of you will not survive this battle. I won't lie to you about that. But those who do survive will tell their grandchildren they stood aboard the Eternal Dawn when humanity proved it would not be conquered. You will tell them that 300 ships came to destroy us and we sent them running. In the weapons section, gunners checked their systems. In engineering, Dongha and his teams ran final diagnostics. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties. In the marine quarters, Mina's soldiers checked their armor and weapons, knowing they might have to repel boarders. Everyone worked with grim determination. Hyunki stood beside Jiwoo on the bridge. Admiral, I've been running simulations. Our best chance is to hit them hard and fast in the opening moments. Create chaos, break their formations before they can coordinate their fire. Agreed, Jiwoo said. The moment they come out of hyperspace, we strike. No warning, no mercy. Show them that humans fight. The countdown began. Sensors watched the void. Somewhere in the darkness, the Dominion fleet was traveling faster than light, crossing the distance between stars. They came for war, confident in their superiority. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The bridge of the Eternal Dawn was quiet, except for the hum of systems and the soft beeps of sensors. Jiwoo sat in her command chair, hands steady on the armrests. Around her, her crew waited at their stations. They had trained for this moment for years. Now training would become reality. Hyperspace signatures detected, called out the sensor officer. Multiple contacts. Counting. 312 enemy vessels. They're emerging at Neptune's orbit exactly where the intelligence predicted. Jiwoo smiled coldly. Heron's information was accurate. The Freehold clans had given them a gift. All hands to battle stations. Charge the main cannon. Prepare to engage. And somebody send a message to that fleet. Tell them Earth says hello. The Eternal Dawn came about, all 5 kilometers of deadly purpose turning toward the incoming threat, its weapons powered up, drawing enormous energy from the fusion reactors. The crew took deep breaths. This was it, war had come to Seoul. Part 3. When humanity's Titan-class warship appeared, the Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 312 warships, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering, spread across the darkness of space near Neptune. Fleet Commander Thales watched the tactical display with satisfaction. His ships moved like a well-trained dance troupe, taking up positions for the classic encirclement pattern that the Council had perfected over millennia. There, his tactical officer pointed to a single contact on the screen. The human vessel. Distance 2 million kilometers. Its holding position not moving. Thales studied the readings. The Eternal Dawn was indeed massive, but it was alone. Completely, utterly alone. They're waiting for us, he said with amusement. How noble. How pointless. All ships begin encirclement. Weapons free in 5 minutes. Let's end this quickly. But on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Admiral Jiwoo was counting down for a very different reason. Distance to optimal firing range? She asked calmly. 30 seconds. Hyunki replied, his hands dancing across his controls. Their formation is tight, just as the intelligence predicted. They're grouping their command ships together. Perfect. Jiwoo leaned forward in her chair. Charge the main cannon to full power. Target their command cluster. Fire the moment we're in range. Dongha's voice crackled over the intercom from engineering. Admiral, firing at full power will drain 30% of our reactor output. We'll be vulnerable for 8 seconds while the weapon recharges. 8 seconds is all we need, Jiwoo said. Fire when ready. The countdown reached 0. The Eternal Dawn's main cannon, a weapon that channeled the power of a small star, fired. A beam of pure energy, visible even in the void of space, lanced across the darkness. It took 3 seconds to cross the distance. 3 seconds that felt like an eternity. On his bridge, Thales saw the energy reading and his eyes widened in horror. Shields! Raise shields, too late. The beam struck the center of his formation. 5 warships simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. The shields of a dozen more overloaded and failed. Explosions rippled through the Dominion fleet as secondary blasts damaged nearby vessels. What was that? Thales shouted. What kind of weapon was that? His tactical officer stared at the readings in disbelief. Sir, the energy output from that single shot exceeded our entire fleet's combined weapons. I've never seen anything like it. Thales felt something he hadn't experienced in decades, fear. He pushed it down and snarled orders. All ships, return fire! Converge on that vessel and destroy it. The Dominion fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma torpedoes, mass driver rounds, and energy beams streaked toward the eternal dawn. The human warships' shields flared brilliant white as they absorbed the incoming fire. For a moment it seemed like the shields might fail, but they held. Shields at 70%, Dongha reported. They're holding, but we can't take that kind of sustained fire for long. We won't, Jiwoo said. She looked at Yunki. Execute your plan. Show them what unpredictable means, Yunki grinned. For the past 5 years he had studied every battle the Dominion Council ever fought. Their tactics were refined over thousands of years, yes, but refinement had made them rigid. They always did the same things because those things always worked. Until now. Full thrust, random vector, Yunki commanded. Make them chase us. The Eternal Dawn suddenly accelerated at an angle the Dominion fleet didn't expect. Their carefully planned encirclement collapsed as ships scrambled to adjust. More importantly, their mast fire now hit empty space. The giant human warship moved with surprising agility for something so large. They're breaking formation, Thales observed. Maintain pursuit. Don't let them escape. But escape wasn't what Jiwoo had in mind. Launch swarm missiles. All tubes. Everything we have. This was Dr. Somin's masterpiece. While the Dominion spent centuries perfecting massive, powerful weapons, humans had gone a different direction. The Eternal Dawn opened its launch tubes and released thousands of small missiles. Each one had basic targeting intelligence, cheap to make but smart enough to hunt. The Dominion point defense systems engaged, shooting down dozens of missiles. But there were too many. The swarm spread out, surrounding individual ships, attacking from multiple angles. Defense guns couldn't track them all. Missiles slipped through and impacted hulls. Explosions bloomed across the Dominion fleet. 30 ships took critical damage. 10 more lost engine power and drifted helpless. The survivors scattered, their formation completely destroyed. What had been an organized military force moments ago was now a confused mess. Impossible, Thales whispered.
How are they doing this?
His second-in-command had an answer, and it wasn't one the fleet commander wanted to hear. Sir, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. Our tactics assume the enemy will respond in predictable ways. The humans aren't being predictable. Thales watched another 5 of his ships die as the Eternal Dawn fired its main cannon again, pride warred with pragmatism in his mind. He had lost a quarter of his fleet in less than 10 minutes. This was supposed to be an easy extermination mission. This was supposed to be over by now. Aboard the Eternal Dawn, alarms blared. Multiple breaches in the outer hull, a damage control officer reported. They're launching boarding pods. Of course they are, Jiwoo said. Minna, you're up. Repel boarders. Make them regret trying. Commander Minna led her marine units to the breach points. The alien soldiers who came through were skilled warriors, veterans of countless battles. But they found themselves in narrow corridors designed by humans for humans. They faced Marines fighting to defend their homeworld, their families, their species. The close-quarters combat was brutal and short. The aliens fell back, those who could retreat doing so quickly. Breaches sealed, Minna reported. Her voice was calm despite the sounds of weapons fire in the background. Enemy boarding parties eliminated. No survivors. On the main bridge, Hyun-Ki noted something on his tactical display. Admiral, their command ship is trying to pull back. Thales is repositioning to the rear of his fleet. Smart of him, Jiwoo acknowledged. But not smart enough. He's grouped the ships with him for protection. That makes them a target. Main cannon, fire on the command cluster again. Charging, the weapons officer confirmed. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The beam lanced out again. This time Thales was ready. His command ship and its escorts had reinforced their shields. The beam struck but didn't completely penetrate. 2 escort ships were destroyed, but the command vessel survived. We can't break through those shields with a single shot, Hyun-Ki observed. Then we don't use a single shot, Jiwoo replied. All secondary batteries concentrate fire on the command ship. I want continuous fire until those shields fail. The Eternal Dawn had dozens of smaller weapons designed for exactly this purpose. They opened fire together, a steady stream of energy beams and projectiles hammering at the command ship's shields. Bit by bit, the shields weakened. Thales knew he was in trouble. More than half his fleet was destroyed or crippled. The human ship showed damage but was still fully operational, and now they were targeting him specifically. He had 2 choices. Stay and probably die, or retreat and live with the shame. Pride demanded he stay. Survival instinct said to run. In the end, survival won. All ships retreat, Thales commanded, his voice bitter. Fall back to the hyperspace jump point. We're withdrawing. Sir, the Council will never accept this, his second-in-command warned. The Council can go to hell, Thales snapped. I'm not throwing away what's left of this fleet on a suicide mission. Retreat, now. The surviving Dominion ships broke off and ran. Jiwoo watched them go with cold satisfaction. Pursue them. Don't let them escape cleanly. I want them to remember this day every time they close their eyes. The Eternal Dawn gave chase, its weapons picking off stragglers and damaged ships. The Great Retreat became a rout. Ships that had arrived proud and confident fled in panic and disorder. When they finally jumped to hyperspace, only 108 vessels remained out of the original 312. Silence fell over the bridge. Then someone started clapping. Others joined in. Within moments, every person on the bridge was cheering. They had done the impossible. They had defeated the Dominion Council's fleet. Jiwoo stood and raised her hand for quiet. We won this battle, she said firmly. But the war is far from over. They'll be back and they'll be ready for us next time. Get me damage reports. Get me casualty counts. And someone send a message to Earth. Tell them we held the line. Dongha's report came in first. Shields are depleted. We need 48 hours for a full recharge. Hull breaches on decks 7, 12, and 18. Minor damage to the number 3 reactor. We lost 823 crew members. 823 people. Each one had a name, a family, dreams that would never come true. Jiwoo felt the weight of their deaths, but she pushed the grief aside for now. There would be time to mourn later. Right now she had a ship to repair and a planet to protect. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. Humanity had won. The species that everyone said would be crushed in minutes had destroyed 2/3 of the Dominion fleet. The impossible had happened. Part 4, when humanity's Titan-class warship appeared. The celebrations on Earth lasted 3 days. People danced in the streets. They sang songs about Admiral Jiwoo and the crew of the Eternal Dawn. Children played games where they pretended to be heroes defending humanity against alien invaders. For the first time in 30 years, humans felt proud instead of afraid. But Admiral Jiwoo did not celebrate. She stood in the medical bay of the Eternal Dawn, walking past rows of beds containing wounded crew members. Some would recover. Others would carry their injuries for life. She stopped at the memorial wall where 823 names were being engraved. Each name represented someone who would never go home. You did what was necessary, Admiral, Captain Hyun-ki said quietly. He had found her here, standing alone in the dim light. They died protecting Earth. They died as heroes. Necessary deaths are still deaths, Jiwoo replied. And I fear we'll see many more before this is over. The Council won't accept this defeat. They can't. Their entire power structure is built on the belief that they're unbeatable. She was right. At that very moment, 3 dreadnoughts were preparing to jump to hyperspace. These weren't ordinary warships. They were mobile fortresses, built over the course of centuries, each one carrying weapons that could reduce entire cities to ash. They had been used only twice before in Dominion history, both times to put down massive rebellions. Now they were coming to Earth. Ambassador Tai Yang sent urgent messages from the Dominion capital. The dreadnoughts are coming, 3 of them with full escort fleets. Intelligence suggests they'll arrive within the week. Admiral, the Eternal Dawn can't fight 3 dreadnoughts, not in its current condition. Back on the warship, Dongha worked without sleeping. His engineering teams labored around the clock to repair the damage from the first battle. The shields were the biggest problem. They had taken tremendous punishment and needed complete recalibration. I need more time, Dongha told Jiwoo. At least 2 more weeks to get the shields back to full strength. We don't have 2 weeks, Jiwoo said. Do what you can with the time we have. Ambassador Harin contacted them with more information from the Freehold clans. Her holographic image showed concern. Admiral, the dreadnoughts are worse than you think. Each one carries planet-killer weapons. If they can't defeat you in ship-to-ship combat, they'll threaten to destroy Earth itself. The Council is desperate. They'll do anything to restore their image of invincibility. Jiwoo called a meeting of her senior officers. They gathered around the tactical display, studying the approach vectors the dreadnoughts would likely use. Dr. So-min had analyzed the data on dreadnought capabilities. Her report was grim. One dreadnought is approximately equal to the Eternal Dawn in firepower. 3 of them working together will overwhelm us, and that's assuming our shields were at full strength, which they're not. So we can't win a direct fight, Hyun-Ki said, staring at the display. What if we don't fight directly? What if we use hit-and-run tactics, try to separate them? They'll expect that, Mina pointed out. And they won't let themselves be separated. They've learned from their first mistake. They'll stay together and coordinate their fire. For hours they debated strategies. Every plan had fatal flaws. Every scenario ended with the Eternal Dawn destroyed and Earth defenseless. The mood grew darker as they realized they might be facing an unwinnable situation. Finally, Hyun-Ki spoke quietly. There is one option we haven't discussed. Everyone looked at him. He took a deep breath before continuing. If we overload the main reactor and ram it into the lead dreadnought at full speed, the explosion would destroy it and heavily damage the others. Maybe enough damage that Earth's defense stations could finish them off. Silence filled the room. They all understood what he was suggesting. A suicide run. The complete destruction of the Eternal Dawn and everyone aboard. No, Jiwoo said immediately. I won't order this crew to die. There has to be another way. There isn't, Hyun-Ki said gently. Admiral, you know the math as well as I do. We can't win this fight conventionally, but we can still protect Earth. That's our mission. That's what we built this ship to do. Dr. So-min checked her calculations. If we time it correctly, the reactor overload would generate an explosion equivalent to a small supernova. Nothing within 1,000,000 kilometers would survive. But Hyun-Ki is right. Someone would have to manually pilot the ship on the collision course and keep the reactor stable until impact. The automation systems couldn't handle that kind of precision. I'll do it, Hyun-Ki said. I'm the best pilot on this ship. Give me a small crew to help manage the systems. Everyone else evacuates in the escape pods. Absolutely not, Jiwoo stood up, her voice sharp. I'm not sacrificing you or anyone else. That's final. But over the next 3 days, as the dreadnoughts approached and the repairs continued to fall behind schedule, the truth became impossible to ignore. They couldn't win. Not this time. The only question was whether Earth would fall with them. President Jae-sung contacted Jiwoo directly. His face on the view screen looked old and tired. Admiral, I've been briefed on the tactical situation. I know what Captain Hyun-Ki has proposed. I won't authorize it, Jiwoo said firmly. I'm not asking you to, Jae-sung replied. I'm asking you to prepare evacuation plans for your crew. If the Eternal Dawn falls, those people need to survive. They're humanity's best and brightest. They'll be needed to rebuild whatever comes next. The dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace exactly where predicted. They came with 200 escort ships, having learned from their previous defeat to bring overwhelming force. The 3 massive warships dwarfed everything around them. Their weapons powered up, energy readings making the Eternal Dawn's sensors scream warnings. Admiral Jiwoo stood on her bridge one last time. All hands, this is the Admiral. Begin evacuation procedures. Non-essential personnel to the escape pods immediately. This is not a drill. Across the ship, crew members moved with disciplined urgency. They had trained for this scenario, hoping never to use it. Now they filed to the escape pod bays, taking one last look at the ship that had been their home. But not everyone left. Hyun-Ki appeared on the bridge with a small team of volunteers. Dong-ha was with him, along with 3 other engineers and 2 navigation specialists. Someone has to stay to guide the ship, Hyun-Ki said. It might as well be us. I ordered you to evacuate, Jiwoo said, though her voice lacked conviction. You gave evacuation orders for non-essential personnel, Hyun-Ki replied with a slight smile. We're all pretty essential to flying a ship into a dreadnought. Besides, Admiral, you know I'm right. This is the only way to protect Earth. The dreadnoughts opened fire. The Eternal Dawn's weakened shields barely held against the onslaught. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. Hull breaches appeared on multiple decks. The massive warship shuddered under the impact. All escape pods away, reported the tactical officer. Only command crew remains aboard. Jiwoo looked at Hyun-Ki. For a moment, she saw him not as a captain, but as the young officer who had joined her crew 5 years ago, full of enthusiasm and brilliant ideas. I should stay with you, she said quietly. No, Hyun-Ki said firmly. Humanity needs you, Admiral. They need someone to build the next fleet, someone to teach the next generation of defenders. That someone is you. Now get to your escape pod. That's an order from your captain. He smiled at his own audacity in giving her an order. Despite everything, Jiwoo found herself smiling back. She saluted him, a crisp military salute that he returned. "Complete your mission, Captain." "Always, Admiral." Jiwoo ran to the last escape pod. Behind her, the bridge crew strapped into their stations. Yunki took the helm personally. "All right, everyone. Let's make this count." Dongha, start overloading the reactor. Navigation, plot our course. Target the center dreadnought. The Eternal Dawn stopped retreating. Instead, it turned directly toward the enemy fleet. The dreadnoughts, confident in their superiority, didn't understand what was happening until it was too late. "Reactor overload in progress," Dongha reported. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "We have 90 seconds until critical. The explosion will be significant." "That's the idea," Hyun-Ki said. He pushed the engines to maximum thrust. The Titan-class warship accelerated, its damaged hull groaning under the stress. Weapons fire from the dreadnoughts tore through the weakened shields and ripped into the armor. But the Eternal Dawn kept coming. On his bridge, the commander of the lead dreadnought finally understood. "They're going to ram us!" Evasive maneuvers. But dreadnoughts were massive ships, built for power, not agility. They couldn't turn fast enough. Hyun-Ki's last transmission went out to all of Earth. "This is Captain Hyun-Ki of the Eternal Dawn. Tell Earth we held the line. Tell them we never surrendered. Tell them that humanity will endure. Always." The warship struck the dreadnought at full speed. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then the overloaded reactor reached critical mass. The explosion lit up the solar system like a second sun. The lead dreadnought disintegrated instantly. The blast wave caught the other two dreadnoughts, tearing through their shields and armor. One lost all power and began drifting. The other, heavily damaged, tried to retreat. Part 5. When humanity's Titan-class warship appeared, 6 months had passed since Captain Hyun-Ki's sacrifice. 6 months since the Eternal Dawn became a fireball that saved Earth and changed the galaxy forever. The memorial on Earth grew larger every day as people from around the world came to honor the fallen. But while humans mourned, they also built. Admiral Jiwoo stood in Earth's largest orbital shipyard, watching something that would have seemed impossible a year ago. 6 Titan-class warships under construction simultaneously. The yards worked day and night, with crews rotating every 8 hours. Every nation on Earth contributed resources, workers, and expertise. Humanity had united in a way it never had before, driven by a simple understanding: they could never be weak again. "The first one will be ready next month," Dongha reported. He had survived the battle, having been in an escape pod when Hyun-Ki made his final run. Now he led the engineering teams building the new fleet. "We've improved the shield systems based on data from the battles. The new ships will be 30% more durable." Jiwoo nodded, watching sparks fly as welders worked on the massive hull of the nearest ship. "What are they naming them?" The workers voted. They chose names that mean something. Unbroken, Defiance, Resolve, Valiant, Steadfast, and the rebuilt Eternal Dawn. That last one was unanimous. They wanted to honor what Hyun-Ki did. The name made Jiwoo's throat tight with emotion. She had attended so many memorial services over the past months. She had looked into the eyes of families who lost sons, daughters, parents, and spouses. Each time she promised them that their loved one's sacrifice mattered. Now she could show them the proof. Ambassador Tae Yang arrived at the shipyard with news from across the galaxy. "Admiral, the rebellions are spreading faster than anyone predicted. 47 worlds rose up in the first month. Now it's over 90. The Dominion Council is recalling fleets from the frontier to suppress the uprisings. They're stretched thin." "And Ambassador Harin?" Jiwoo asked. "She's formed a coalition. The Freehold clans are now openly defying the Council. They're not strong enough to win alone, but they're tying down Council forces. She sent a message specifically for you." Tae Yang handed over a data chip. Jiwoo played the message in private. Harin's holographic image appeared, looking tired but determined. "Admiral Jiwoo, what you did has given my people hope for the first time in centuries. But hope alone won't win wars. We need help. The Council is preparing to crush the rebellions one world at a time. If they succeed, everything your people sacrificed will be for nothing. I'm asking humanity to stand with us. Not just for our sake, but because the Council will eventually come for Earth again. We need to end their tyranny permanently." Jiwoo brought the message to President Jae-sung. They met in his office overlooking the lights of New Seoul. "She's asking us to go to war again," the president said. To take our ships across the galaxy and fight for species we barely know. The people might not support this. The people will support defending their home, Jiwoo countered. And our home isn't safe as long as the Council exists. They'll rebuild. They'll return. Unless we stop them now completely and finally. President Jae-sung stared out the window for a long time. Finally he spoke. My grandfather fought in the old wars on Earth, back when humans killed each other over borders and resources. He told me something before he died. He said the only way to ensure peace is to make war impossible, not by being weak and hoping for mercy, but by being so strong that no one dares attack you, and sometimes by helping others become strong too. He turned to face Jiwoo. Build your fleet, Admiral. When the ships are ready, take them to the stars, and this, not just for Earth, but for every species that wants to live free. 4 months later, the 6 Titan-class warships launched together. It was the largest military ceremony Earth had ever seen. Billions watched as the massive vessels rose from their construction yards, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Each ship carried a crew of 5,000. The best people humanity could provide. Admiral Jiwoo commanded from the new Eternal Dawn. The ship was both a tribute to what was lost and a promise of what would be protected. On her bridge, a memorial plaque honored Captain Hyun-ki and the 106 crew members who died with him. She touched it briefly before taking her command chair. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, said the communications officer. Jiwoo had insisted on young officers for this mission, a new generation that would carry humanity forward. The Freehold clan's fleet is waiting at the designated coordinates. Then let's not keep them waiting, Jiwoo said. All ships jump to hyperspace. It's time to finish this. The 6 warships jumped together, disappearing from Earth's orbit in flashes of light. They emerged a week later at the edge of Freehold space. Waiting for them was Ambassador Ha-Rin's fleet. 3,000 ships of various sizes and designs representing 40 different species. They weren't Titan-class warships, but they had courage and determination. Ha-Rin's voice came over the communication channel. Admiral Jiwoo, welcome. Your arrival has already changed everything. The Council knows you're here. They're gathering their remaining forces at their capital world for a final defense. Then that's where we go, Jiwoo said simply. No more half measures. We end this threat once and for all. The combined fleet began the long journey to the Dominion capital. As they traveled, more ships joined them. Species that had lived under Council rule for centuries saw the human Titan-class warships and found courage. By the time they reached the capital system, the fleet had grown to over 7,000 vessels. The Dominion Council had prepared their final defense. Every remaining dreadnought, every available warship, every weapon they possessed was positioned around their throne world. They had stripped defenses from across their territory to mass here. If they lost this battle, the Dominion was finished. The Velcro's Chancellor addressed the defenders. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. We will not fall to a species that barely knows how to leave their own planet. Show them the true power of the Dominion. Show them that we are the rightful masters of the stars. But when the Allied fleet emerged from hyperspace, even the Chancellor felt a moment of doubt. 6 Titan-class warships led the formation, with thousands of smaller vessels behind them. It looked less like a military fleet and more like an entire civilization coming to war. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. It lasted 3 days. The fighting was brutal, desperate, and without mercy on either side. The Titan-class warships proved their worth, their massive weapons tearing through dreadnoughts that had seemed invincible before. But they paid for every victory with damage and casualties. On the second day, Valiant took critical damage and had to withdraw. On the third day, Steadfast lost its main engines and could only provide fire support. The Freehold clans lost hundreds of ships, but they kept fighting. For them, this wasn't just a battle. It was the end of 3,000 years of slavery. Dong-Ha worked miracles in the engineering sections of the Eternal Dawn, keeping systems running long past their design limits. Dr. So-min coordinated targeting solutions across all 6 human ships, finding weaknesses in the Council's defenses. Commander Minna led boarding actions against dreadnoughts, her Marines fighting deck by deck to capture enemy ships. But the Council had one final weapon. Deep in their capital, they had stellar collapse bombs powerful enough to destroy entire star systems. The Velcro's Chancellor prepared to use them. If he couldn't win, he would take everyone with him, enemies and allies alike. Better to rule in ruins than not rule at all. That's when Dr. So Min revealed humanity's final secret. During the months of preparation, Dong Ha had provided detailed information about Council technology, including their weapon systems. Human scientists had developed override codes based on that information. Now, as the Chancellor tried to activate the stellar bombs, Dr. So Min transmitted those codes. The bombs refused to fire. Their systems locked up, unable to complete the activation sequence. The Chancellor stared at his control panel in disbelief, pressing buttons that no longer responded. "This is Admiral Jiwoo of Earth to all Dominion forces," her voice echoed across every communication channel. "Your superweapons are disabled. Your fleet is defeated. You have one chance to end this without more death. Surrender now and we'll show mercy. Refuse, and we'll finish this fight." The Chancellor, consumed by rage and pride, tried to detonate his command ship to take the human fleet with him. But Dong Ha had anticipated that too. His engineering teams had hacked into the ship's systems during the battle. They prevented the explosion and vented the atmosphere from the Chancellor's command center. The Velcros Chancellor died not in glory, but gasping for air, his last thoughts filled with the impossible reality that humans had defeated him. The remaining Council forces surrendered. The 3-day battle ended. Of the 6 Titan-class warships, 4 were still operational. Valiant and Steadfast would need months of repairs. The Freehold clans had lost nearly half their fleet, but they had won. In the aftermath, Ambassador Tae Yang worked with Ha-Rin and representatives from dozens of species to create something new. Not another empire, not another council of rulers, but a true confederation where every species had an equal voice.